And welcome back. Hour number 2 in the Kenny and JT show. Thursday afternoon. We've got all kinds of great topics on the board today. Taking you back in time and just wondering, what Super Bowl would you love to see if you could pick the starting quarterbacks of anybody who ever played in one of the Super Bowls? Super Bowl 55 is a week from Sunday. And, we're just going to bring back as much excitement to the game as we can. But right now, we do something a little bit different. We talk about excitement. We talk about going live on Facebook. And from time to time on the program, we'll have some live interviews, and we'll put them up on Facebook Live. So if you're out there right now, or if you want to check it out, you can check us out right now on Facebook, WHBC Facebook page. And for our very first effort to do this thing live on video, I couldn't think of anybody who looked better in video than my main man, head coach of the Canton Central Catholic Crusaders, the one and only Trucker Lindesmith. Trucker, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be the first guy on here and also to be on Kenny's birthday. I'm telling you, what a day for me.
Yeah, it is your lucky day, isn't it, Trucker? I mean, look at this. You're sitting between two of the best-looking guys in radio if people are watching on Facebook Live right now. Or I should say, how about this? The two worst-looking guys in radio, which makes you look better.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I definitely have a radio face for sure.
He's got more hair than both of us combined. That's why
we don't have the hat on. I'm not hiding it. That's for sure.
Well, we have headphone hair. That's why we do this. Okay. Trucker, last time we talked, we asked you about the season, the ups and downs, how hard it was, and all the things we had to go through, especially with the coronavirus. What's changed between now and then?
Oh, I think we're just allowed to do a few more things, but we're still under a lot of precautions, a lot of cleaning. Obviously, when we're in the off season, which is great. We lost a lot of off season last year, but our kids that aren't doing winter sports, and even some of those kids are trying to get bigger and faster and stronger, trying to build as a team. That team building is very, very important for us. And so we do a lot more cleaning, but we're doing some things in the weight room. It's fun. It's exciting, but we're still very, very careful. It used to be just all out, go in the weight room, have different stations, have different things set up. Now we're a little bit more organized. We know who kids are with. We monitor that weekly, just in case something does happen, when it comes back to contact tracing and where kids are at in areas, we should know that. So you got to be careful, but we're slowly getting back to it.
How about this, JT? We're talking to a football coach. He's mentioning a pandemic, contact tracing. I mean, these are terms, right. A year and a half ago, we didn't know what the hell they were. We didn't talk about them, but now they're part of the everyday vernacular for football coaches, aren't they, Truck?
Yeah, it's every day, and it's important, still temperature checks and things like that. You have kids, but it's amazing when you work with our kids because, and I'm sure most schools are this way, they want to do things. They want to be in school. They want to lift weights. They want to be with their teammates. So they understand the importance of working out. Sometimes it's uncomfortable if they have masks on, if we're doing things, but they want to do that. So they're very, very helpful, and they're very good at that.
See how I do that, right? Is the head coach of Canton Central Catholic. That's Trucker Lindesmith. That's his nickname. We all grew up together. Jeff Lindesmith is the head coach of the Canton Central Catholic Crusaders, joining us on FaceTime Live or Facebook Live right now. It's hard to get all these things memorized, Kenny. FaceTime, Facebook, we go back.
Snapface, as Belichick used to call it. Yeah.
Trucker, I want to ask you a question, and it's kind of interesting because over the last year, pandemic or not, we saw a lot of guys that used to coach high school football right here in Stark County. Whether they're in the county or not, they're back on the sideline. I think I'm talking about Donnie Hertler and Scott Garcia. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts, and what would you tell them if you had to interview them to become a head coach? Are you nuts?
You know what? I would think this, though. When you first sit down and talk to them, you'll see those two guys have passion for kids and passion to educate kids. And they both have it. They're both great at doing that. They're both great at teaching the game and teaching life lessons. And I think my profession is better because those two guys are in it. They're great. They usually have their priorities straight. You sometimes get to places in high school and they don't understand what you're doing. It's wins and losses, and it's not lives you change, which, the chances of ever, making a living in sports, you had a better chance of winning the Mega last week, right? You did. Yeah. You did. You had a better chance of winning the Mega. So those life lessons you teach and to make kids better and to better their lives, those two are great at it. I would probably say, October, week 8, week 9 on a Thursday night when you're exhausted and you got a game coming up, you might say, are you nuts? They may be thinking that, but the grind they put themselves through is not easy. And they've both been through it. They both understand the importance of sometimes recharging your batteries, taking a few hours away from the game can be helpful to you. And those guys have done it, but they're fabulous coaches and great guys to be around.
All right, for you, those guys coached, retired, they're coming back. You're still coaching. Have you given any thought, as to when it's going to be time for you, not that we want you to, but I've got to think, if you look into the future as to when it's time for you to hang it up?
You know what? I don't think it crosses my mind very often, Kenny. When those times get real tired, you think of, it's sometimes it is a young man's game. It's, I know I was with Coach Kleinfelder a long time, and you're talking about somebody, was into his 70s almost coaching. The summer sometimes get a little bit tough, and you got to make sure you have a staff around you that can help you. That's very, very important. I don't think I've ever thought about giving it up yet. There's certain days I'm going, oh boy, when it's during a 2-a-day and when it's 100 degrees out there and you're on the turf, and there's times where my knees get a little sore than they used to. You sometimes think, but I don't think of anything else I would rather do right now. And I enjoy my staff. The kids are around you, you enjoy, and I enjoy every day that way, even in the off season, the weight room and getting in the hallways and running and trying to get them better. I enjoy it so far. So the thought's not there very often.
Good.
For how much of your day is dedicated to football?
Not very much. After school, I'm a guidance counselor during the day, and I do a lot of that way. But we go from usually about 3 to 5 o'clock in the after, and almost 4 days a week. When it comes to actual myself, football, I would say it's another 2 hours a day. There hasn't been a day gone by where I haven't watched film. I haven't watched something I want to learn. Looked a little bit today at the Coastal Carolina offense during lunchtime. Some things they did. I enjoy that kind of part of it. Sometimes it looks really neat on TV, but what's the concepts behind it? I do a lot of research that way. I enjoy that. I probably spend an hour or two a week reading something about somebody's life, whether it be some type of motivational guy. I like those kind of things. Just what keeps people going, what keeps your minds fresh, and how do kids learn these days?
Yeah, you know what's interesting, Truck? It's a copycat sport, right? And it doesn't matter if it's at the NFL level, the collegiate level, or the high school level. Coaches are always looking for an edge. And the one I want to ask you about that we saw a lot with Sarkisian in Alabama, and we're seeing with Andy Reid and Kansas City. It's the motion with the speedier players moving that defensive round, looking for that one-step edge, that half-second edge. How much of that do you as a coach look for at whatever level you're watching games live or you get tape to watch?
Yeah, I look at that a lot. Our offense that we put in, about 8 years ago with the jet motion, a lot of that window dressing and what people do. They obviously have a lot more time. They have a lot more teaching tools to some of those guys at those different levels. But how can you add a little wrinkle or two in high school is nice to it. And I look at that, what Kansas City does with all that motion and, and sometimes it's just there to just move people and they're running just a simple inside zone. But what they get, you even look at the Browns and what he does with formations, to me was amazing. And he's so good offensively at trying to find they'd look for like a guy lined up from the outside shade of the guard, and then this formation moves him to the inside, which allows Chubb to get another 2 seams to run. It's amazing. And their film study and their preparation that way. But those, you can look at a few things. Obviously defenses aren't as complicated in high school because you don't have 8-9 hours a day to watch film and to teach things like that. But yeah, we do. I look at some of that stuff. Hopefully it can help.
At the end of the day, it's running, blocking, and tackling, right, Truck?
You better believe it. The fundamentals got to be there, and I honestly believe you got to have 11 guys that care about 11 guys on that field, and that's something you always have to work and fight against. Individualized play, usually always they'll find you, and you got to have everybody pulling for everybody, and that's important. That's important that we work on here in the off season, and our seniors, we have leadership breakfasts where we talk a lot about being a leader is not just yelling at a guy to run faster, but to care about people, and that's important.
Talking with Jeff Lindesmith. You can follow him on Twitter at Truck Lindy, the head coach at Central Catholic. And Truck, I want to go back to this past season. JT and I mentioned this either yesterday or Tuesday. We were talking about when the season started, what we noticed under the new rules. And then as the season went on, I didn't even think about those things, right? So for you, what was the toughest adjustment, from this past season for your team, either practice-wise or in-game? And how soon before your guys made it not even an issue anymore?
Oh, boy. It was weird. I think just the sidelines, how you have your sidelines set up, we've actually practiced that a couple of times where, you send a play in and then you want a group setting. We don't do a lot of whole substitutions on certain formations, but you do have that. And kids want to gather around. Maybe your offensive line can't get together, after a series where you have a coach or myself can get to. That was probably hard for us. Keeping sure we keep distance, I thought was important. It was kind of hard to do at times. Kids would get excited. As the season went on, they got better at it. It's really weird. Probably I thought the weirdest thing was after a game, I always wanted to go see the other head coach, and you always try to talk to him or whatever. Our players have always been taught sportsmanship, and after the game, who you've battled with, it's important to go over and tell them good game. You couldn't do that. Yeah. I think the only game we went to United in our second playoff game, and for some reason they just came right to, and we beat them. And I thought, well, we'll just go to opposite end zones, and they did. And the coach wanted to come over and wanted to talk to some of our kids, and he said, we studied your team for 2 weeks, and there were certain kids he wanted to do it, and there was a state evaluator there, and we did get nothing big, but they did tell us you shouldn't do that after games anymore. Wow. And so that was kind of weird. There was little things like that. I think we started our practice and explained a lot of things that we did. So the kids got used to it pretty quick. But every day was an adjustment. Every day something different. Locker rooms, face mask as soon as you come in.
Yep.
Even our kids wear face masks during school every day, and they're really good at it. You think you get to the locker room, okay, I can relax and get undressed. And a lot of reminders that way. As soon as they get into the locker room, a lot of reminders to put their mask back on. Myself, I did a lot of laundry because I didn't want the kids to take the things home, throw them in the car, your jersey, throw them in the car, your pants. A lot of cleaning of the lockers. I did, sometimes 3 times a week, 3 times a day. I was cleaning the lockers out just to make sure, because I just wanted those kids to have the opportunity to keep playing.
And that was close for? Isn't that why you got Bo on the staff?
You would think, but yeah. He always said he had too many classes during the day, and I could get out of the guidance office and go down and spray it out. But my coaches were great at it. But Flo was probably in the weight room, for getting a quick workout in.
Yeah. Well, hey, don't feel bad. Real quick, Trucker. Don't feel bad about maybe the OHSAA saying don't shake hands, because at the first state championship game at Paul Brown Tiger Stadium, they were broadcasting it live on Spectrum, and because of how many fans they let in, everybody was sitting too close together, and somebody called, to Maslin and said, look, either you separate the fans or you're not going to play any more games. So they had to make an announcement over the PA system to make sure everybody's spread out for the remaining state championship games.
Yeah, I believe it. And they always called you and said, we're going to come up and evaluate what you're doing, how your locker rooms were. We set up tents outside our locker rooms for, kids had to sit. They weren't coming in at halftime because they weren't playing, but your coaches would have a small group, and I can get on a chalkboard with just the kids that were playing. That was kind of tough because I want the young kids to watch. Those sophomores and maybe juniors and sometimes freshmen aren't playing. I want to see that routine of how you make adjustments at halftime, how you do certain things. We couldn't necessarily always do that, but that's okay. Everybody has to put up with certain things, and that's important. Some teams that would come in and have 70 guys, our visiting locker room doesn't, it's only 45, 50 guys. So you have to make accommodations for other people to get into, but it worked out.
I'll tell you guys pulled it off. As someone that had the opportunity to go to quite a few number of games this year, it was amazing to me. And we're not in the locker room and we're not in the classroom and we don't see what goes on the daily basis, but come game night, you guys pulled it off. So that's kudos to you, your staff, the school, and everyone else involved in getting that thing together. So moving forward, now we don't know what's going to happen in the fall. Do you guys have your schedule put together? Is it still a work in process? How does that all work out?
Hey, right now, most schools will have their 10-game schedules already set, and you're just planning on it being a routine back to normal a little bit. I don't think we'll be back to normal when it comes to, I don't know. Obviously, I think you're still going to have some mask wearing. You're going to still have some separation, but I think it'll be pretty close, in my opinion. They're talking about teachers and coaches and things starting to get vaccines. I don't know if young kids will have that close to that time, but I think we'll be back to some of the things that we're used to. But when it comes to scheduling, we're planning on getting back to how we're going 10 weeks, getting back to scrimmage time, and everything kind of getting back to normal. I think there'll still be some restrictions, which I think it will be. That was good, that we'll have to adjust to, but I don't think the severity will be there.
Trucker, with the way this happened, JT and I were talking about this. We're almost facing a year. March 15th, I think, was when we started doing remote shows. You know what I mean? Me at home, him at home, or both of us, whatever, right? For you as a coach, the players, it sounds like for your team, they bought in rather quickly. How were you able to convince them that this was important? Because we've never been through this before, and they're kids. They're 15, 16, 17-year-old kids that are used to being able to go in groups and do whatever they wanted here, there, and there. How were you able to convince them?
Yeah, I think just because everybody went remote by April and they weren't in school and what they missed, I think they knew the severity of it. So I think kids were amazing that way. And I think every day that we talked about when we got together starting in June, how different it was. June really wore me out to a point where, because we were only allowed to bring 9 guys in at a time. And so what we were trying to do is cycle guys in to be safe. And so for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, there was just meeting 8 other guys. Those 9 guys were at the stadium. Those 9 guys were in the weight room. And then the next guys 9 came in after cleaning and all that. So they're like, I would suggest the same thing. You're like, holy smokes, this is really different. I don't see the wideouts, or I don't see JT and the receivers. I haven't seen them since April. And, they kind of caught on to it. If we want to do this, if we want an opportunity to continue or to have a high school season, this is what we're going to have to do. And I think they bought into that. I think every week you saw somebody that was canceling. So that probably helped reinforce things. This school's done for another 2 weeks now. They're only playing 3 games. Some people aren't even playing at all. And kids realize, this could be us if all of a sudden, the big thing I always taught was when you left our school, what you do is really important. And that circle that you got bigger, it gets bigger. School starts or practice starts. Now all of a sudden you're with 50 guys. That circle got bigger. You go home and you want to go to a pool party and there's 50 people there, 25 girls and 25 guys. And that got bigger. And they try to emphasize how it just keeps blowing up and getting bigger and bigger. And I always said, that's why I'm hardly seeing my father, during this time, because my circle got really big.
Yep.
I'd much rather call him than run down on 24th Street and see him, just because I think it's safer that way. And so I re-emphasize that a lot to him. And that's really where a lot of schools got in trouble, because that circle got too big, or it's just a couple hours I'm going to somebody's house and going swimming. And the next thing you know, there's more people there, and it got worse.
Chuck, talk about what we saw at the collegiate level, and you kind of mentioned at the high school level as well. When you're starting and stopping, let's say you have a game, you got a week off, and it's not a bye week. Sometimes we prepare for a bye week, but we don't always get a bye week. But if you had a couple of weeks off, like the Buckeyes, for instance, how does that affect a program when you're not playing on a weekly basis?
Oh, it's terrible. Just a routine you're used to. And you guys have all been athletes. You guys are athletes just like me. And as a coach, it's the same thing. You love routine. You love what you do. And you continue to do that. And, even like you mentioned Ohio State, they just don't want to improve every week so much and what they build on. And all of a sudden you get a couple weeks off. And I think the building just kind of stopped. You know what I mean? It'd be hard. I think that's sometimes why you see a space between regular season and college. Remember, I used to have like 4 or 5 weeks and then the bowls would start.
Yeah.
Defenses were horrible, right? The over went every game. They're going 75, 80 points combined. And I think you just lose that competitive edge a little bit, and you know, you're not as sharp as you used to be. And I think that's important. That's hard to do. Mm-hmm. A week is nice. You can get a recovery, but when you start talking about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, that'd be tough.
All right, so who's winning Super Bowl 55? Is it the GOAT or the kid? Is it Brady or is it Mahomes? Who do you like in this upcoming Super Bowl?
Oh, boy. I wanted to say the Browns would win, but I know I can't say that, Duffer. You know what? It's hard to go against Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. Their defense is really – they're pretty good. They don't get enough credit how well they play defense. But it's hard to go against Tom Brady. I think if I had to, I'd go with the Buccaneers at home, little advantage, not much travel involved, maybe not many distractions for them. So I'd go with the Buccaneers, but the Chiefs are awfully good.
You're the same age as Brady. Could you imagine playing right now at the highest level?
Thank you very much. That's nice. Yeah, I can imagine playing. Sure, one play, and then they have to call somebody.
To get that off your nose.
Sure. Right.
One of the things we're having fun with on the program today, and Kenny alluded to the fact that you do still have that youthful appearance, but the one thing I want to look at is you're still wearing it high and tight with the flat top.
Yeah.
So what we were saying earlier is if you could choose any great quarterbacks that played in the Super Bowl and had your dream matchup, and we mentioned Earl Morrall, and you still, as an homage to him, wearing
is. Yeah.
If you could choose any starting quarterback in any era to face off against anyone that played in a Super Bowl, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough question. You know, Johnny Unitas was always one of our family favorites back in the day when we were younger. He'd be neat to watch.
You got high tops right now?
Huh?
Are you wearing high tops like Johnny Unitas?
You better believe I got the high top Chuck Taylors on right now.
There you go. The black ones, too. He's got the black Taylors.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Oh, yeah. You know who I'd like to see one more time in the Super Bowl, and this is funny. He only did one, but Dan Marino was so great. Mm. That would be kind of neat to see him play and sling it. I think the passing offenses now are so much more sophisticated, right? Those guys would come out and throw, I don't know, he threw a lot of yards, but he played a lot of games. What did he throw, 25 times a game maybe? I mean, you're talking about guys that come out and sling it now.
Yeah.
40 times, 50 times if they have to. Marino would be. Can you imagine Marino with all these wide receivers and just letting it fly? I think that would be really neat to
go up against.
Oh, boy, that's a good question. The defense, who do you like to see? I know. Is that what you mean, Duffer?
Well, you want Johnny Unitas versus Dan Marino? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'd be okay. I'd like to see Dan Marino in this offense now, maybe against the old Steel Curtain. I hate the Steelers, but you'd like to see that defense go again. You know, they were phenomenal.
How about this? I did research on this. I told JT earlier in the show that I already saw one of my favorite dream matchups, Staubach against Bradshaw. That actually happened.
Yeah.
There was a story on Wikipedia that in one of the two Super Bowls, Dallas and Pittsburgh met head-to-head, ended up 25 Hall of Famers played combined from those two teams with the two head coaches and then players. 25 Hall of Famers in a Super Bowl going head-to-head against each other. That's insane. You know what I mean? And we're lucky enough to have them all right in Canton at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but that's just mind-boggling.
That's amazing. That talent out there. You're right. Maybe in the Rose Bowl, Pasadena, maybe? Was that where made some crazy catches, maybe?
It might have been. Yeah, I know they played one of their four that they won there, so that might have been one of them. Yeah, but they were both exciting games. Dallas and Pittsburgh, the two Super Bowls, they went head to head against each other, and Bradshaw beat Staubach both times. But you consider who played on those teams, it's remarkable.
Yeah, right. The talent's there, and there's a lot of talent in this Super Bowl.
Oh,
it's incredible
talent in that office right there. And we want to thank you for joining us today, Trucker. Jeff Trucker Lindesmith, head coach of the Kent Central Catholic Crusaders. Our very first FaceTime live on the Kenny and JT show. We appreciate it. Give our best to your family. Tell Carla we said hello. And tell Bo, I said, get into that weight room if he's going to catch up with me a little bit, all right?
Duffer, he's there right now. Once again, thanks, guys, for having me. And Kenny, have a great birthday tonight.
Thanks, Trucker. Appreciate that.